Hello, welcome to the PhlogistiCast. I am Nommy, and I am with Dekky, and this is the Team Fortress 2 podcast. We are here to talk about anything new in Team Fortress 2, all the classes, anything that happens to come around. We have lots of people with us today, so hope you enjoy it. Dekky, if you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dekky, I'm the crazy Kiwi guy, and I'd like to introduce very special guests. The main person we'll be talking to today is Aabicus. Now, along with Medic, who we talked to last week, and who is our other guest, she's actually on the line right now. Aabicus and Medic are the editors of the Daily Spoof, and Spoof stands for Steam Powered User Forums. It's a blog all about Team Fortress 2, which we all have contributed to some degree. Okay, Aabicus, would you like to say a few words?
Hello, I'm Aabicus, as has aptly been introduced. I founded the Daily Spuff. Don't have a lot else to my name at the moment, and that's probably not going to change, but I am glad to be here on the PhlogistiCast.
The deal with the PhlogistiCast episodes is for the first 9, we're looking at one of the TF2 classes per episode. Last week we looked at Medic, naturally. It was an obvious choice for us. This week we're doing that class that we just want to get out of the way, really. This is a class, you know, we're really early on into the podcast. It's been about like 2 weeks since we started working on it, but we realized pretty early on that this was the one class we would have trouble with, because I spent the whole 2 weeks searching for someone we could interview who was either good at playing as Scout or who liked playing as Scout. We couldn't find anyone. Okay, thankfully Aabicus came along and told us he could do pretty much any class. But the one we'll be looking at today is the Scout. So, Aabicus.
So I actually did off-class Scout for a brief while, maybe about 100 hours worth of. I've always mained Medic from the beginning, my favorite class. But after a while, you start to get annoyed at how Medic can't really kill anybody, and Scout seemed like the best choice because I like going fast, I like hitting fast, and I like getting out of there. So I had a bit of time to play as Scout. He's all about getting to the next point, completing the objective, hitting the enemy before the enemy sees you, and playing unfair in general. Like, absolutely no part of Scout and no part of Scout's playstyle involves playing fair. He's all about hitting people in the back, hitting people when they don't expect it. Cheap shots, stuff like the Sandman fits perfectly with him, where you hit them with a baseball so they can't use their weapons and they're slow. Like, that's annoying. And Scout is annoying. Sorry, Scout and Scout fans out there, but he really is. And he's the bane of my Medic whenever I'm playing Medic, because them Scouts just come running around the corners with their Criticolas and their soda poppers. And there's just nothing you can do. And then after a while, I switched over to Demo Man because I found that a sticky jumper pain train Demo Man was actually better at Scout than rushing and back capping, which were my 2 favorite parts. But that's a different story. We're talking about Scout here. Scout is a quick class. He's all about objectives, and he's really all about playing unfair.
Alright.
Okay.
That is a good summary of why you got into Scout. If you could, I would like to ask what your favourite Scout weapon set overall is, and why you chose it, how you use it, and if you recommend it.
Oh, without a doubt. Flying Guillotine Sandman is the best, like, ever. I have so much fun playing with those 2 weapons. Whenever I do have to go back to playing Scout, because, I mean, one of the nice things about Team Fortress 2, you can't just play 1 or 2 classes. I mean, you can actually play Medic the entire time, but if you aren't playing Medic, at some point you're just going to have to look and say, hey, the current class I'm playing isn't going to work. I got to play something else. And so whenever I do have to play Scout, he's got the Sandman and Flying Guillotine. The Flying Guillotine is the cleaver secondary. You get to throw cleavers at your enemy. They recharge quickly. They don't pack much of a punch on their own. However, they deal guaranteed crits on stunned players for some really obvious synergy with the Sandman. And they work best mid-range for scouts that aren't exactly on the front lines just yet, or anticipating enemies before they come. And so, I mean, it's just really fun because you hit them with the ball, they're slow, and then you just hit them with the guillotine, the stun cleaver, the 1-2. And so that's why that's my particular favorite loadout for Scout. It's a bit squishy. It's got nothing against buildings, but Scout's got nothing against buildings. The Mad Milk was my favorite before that, but that's basically because I'm a healer at heart. And then in regards to primary, I just use the scatter gun all the time. And that's not because, you know, the other ones are bad or anything like that. All of his primaries have something going for them. I got a lot of shortstop back when they still had item set bonuses. They did stop. I don't think it's anything since, but it's still a good gun. I just like the scatter gun because it's all around a versatile, reliable weapon that hits hard. It's basically a shotgun, which is, you know, all that you really need. Though I should note that I recently tried playing with the Baby Faces Blaster, and oh my gosh, that weapon is easy. That weapon is fun, and I don't want to say anything about whether it's overpowered because I play medic. I think all scouts are overpowered, but oh my gosh, you fly so fast. You just you can hit anyone at any. I just felt so bad using that thing. Sorry, but just a call out for if you're a scout who really feels like playing unfair, just use the Baby Faces Blaster. That thing is a beast.
Okay, is it
There
my
we
turn
go.
now?
Yeah, after you.
Right, sweet. Okay, so you did admit there that the scout is annoying. So I'm gonna ask, what do you think of his character? And keep in mind, in the recent expiration date video, he did surprise a lot of people. So yeah, is he
Yeah,
a person you admire if he existed in real life?
is he a person I would admire if he existed in real life? I mean, I can say that I can respect all of the TF2 classes that existed in real life. Um, they've really formed a little niche for themselves. But in general, in regards to his character, I think he has a fine character. It certainly fits exactly with what his role is in game. Like all the classes, his character was perfectly tied to what he does on the battlefield. I mean, what's he's always insulting you being the person he just killed by talking about hitting you with a bat and calling you fatty and I mean when you get hit when you get killed by a scout and you hear him be like it's like a car crash in slow motion and you're just annoyed, you're like, man, I want to walk over and punch whoever's playing that scout. I want to punch him repeatedly. Can't because he's playing a scout and he's too fast for you. The other thing I think is cool about Scout, if you listen to his voice lines, he's the only class I know of that actually will talk about in-game mechanics. Um, like he's got a line in there where he says that there ain't enough crits in the world to kill me, and at one point he's like, no other class gonna do that. And he mentions maps at some point. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's kind of funny. He's got this sort of meta example that I don't think any of the other characters have. And unlike his annoying, insulting personality, I'm not positive why the scout got it. I can't think of any class in TF2 that's more better for being given meta lines like that. But I just thought that was interesting. I noticed that, hey, for some reason the scout knows he's in a video game, which is kind of cool because he's the closest to the Quake Omni character that all of them were derived from.
Yeah. Can I bring something up?
Yeah, sure.
Medic just sent me a reminder that the sniper actually has a line like that. He said, like when he kills you, he occasionally says the line, "See you in 5 minutes," and I think
Oh,
that's pretty funny.
that's true. Yeah, I guess the sniper does have a couple of lines referring to the active respawn, which
But you've got a good point. Like the scout,
I
he
do
just
think
seems to be aware he's in a game.
I do think it might be given as like, for example, in the Deadpool comics. I don't know if you read comics or anything, but in the Deadpool comics, he often gives references to like knowing that the reader's there. He talks to the reader often, but his character is sort of annoying like Scout, but he's also very, very aware and actually quite intelligent. And they make the character out to be this massive idiot who's a bit crazy, a bit out of the loop, but he still manages to know what's going on around him. And I feel they've like done that with the Scout as well.
Yeah, I see. I guess it could kind of be part of his overly cocky attitude, and because characters like Deadpool are all about that as well. They're all about thinking they're better than everybody else and just having way more one-liners than everybody else. And in general, when you see someone like that, it's rather annoying. And giving them meta powers just fits with that, where if they know exactly what sort of universe they belong in, it just gives them that much more ability to annoy you.
If anything, it gives them a kind of realistic feel
Yeah.
that they're aware of what's going on around them.
And a sort of sense of fun too, because if you know you're in a video game, you can have fun. And the Scout sounds like he's having fun, like he's doing exactly what he wants to.
Oh yeah, Scout definitely does sound like he's having fun. Well, the question I was actually going to move on to now was, you mentioned it earlier actually. It was there's a lot of complaints about whether the babyface blaster is overpowered or not. But you've got a lot of weapons in Team Fortress 2 that could be considered overpowered or are complained about. But I wanted to know, do you think that Scout is overall a stable, balanced character, or do you think he's a bit too overpowered in some ways, or if he's too unbeatable, shall we say?
I actually wrote an article kind of related to this for the Daily Spoof, and it was talking about whether Scout was a generalist. Now, in Team Fortress 2, most classes are considered either generalist or specialists, meaning that a generalist is a class that can generally be played at any point and has a role on the battlefield, no matter what game mode, what the class consistencies are. The generalists are usually the cookie cutters, the cookie cutter classes from competitive sixes: the scout, the demo man, the soldier, and the medic. And the other classes are specialists. Maybe they don't have as much to do in all situations, or they've got very high downsides or costs to their use. Maybe it's setup time for the engineer or sight lines for the sniper. And anyway, I was talking about how I wasn't sure if Scout was actually a generalist, and this ties into what you were saying. I don't see Scout as overpowered. Uh, I actually think that he's got a lot of counters. He's got more counters, I think, than most classes, simply because I'm thinking of a lot of game modes and a lot of situations, and there are a lot of times where he doesn't have a lot to do. For example, on defense, I mean, as I've mentioned, the Scout is about objective rushing and accomplishing objectives. And if it's a map such as, for example, Mountain Lab, where Red's job is stand there and defend the control points, there are no objectives for Scout to complete. There's a lot less for him to do. On payload, if he's on the team where the goal is to stop the payload from rolling to the end, his job is kind of to kill people, I guess, but it's really hard for him to do that because he has to flank the entire enemy team, and the enemy team is getting healed by the payload card. So I just feel that, for example, there's not a lot for Scout to do on defense. And taking the example of payload, it's very difficult to play Scout on offense in payload, in the sense that everyone's goal is to push this bomb, and everyone on the field knows that your goal is to shoot the dudes that are pushing the bomb. So Scout, being a squishy 125 hit point class, is going to have a very hard time pushing a cart because he just doesn't have the health to tank all the bullets and explosives and sentries staring at the cart. And that ties into the final reason he's not overpowered: sentries. He's the only class of Team Fortress 2 that I consider to really have a hard counter, and that is the sentry gun. He really has very little to do if the enemy team has one or two engineers that have placed buildings in intelligent places. Now, until he gets a nail gun, which I wholeheartedly endorse, I love the Team Fortress classic nail gun, and I'll forever mourn its lack of existence in Team Fortress 2 game. But at the moment, the best thing he's got to offer against sentries is the pistol, which is not a bad weapon by any stretch of the imagination, but if there's an engineer with a level 3 dispenser whacking his level 3 sentry, you're not taking it down with your pea shooter. And so, as you've mentioned, the babyface blaster is considered overpowered. I'm not going to disagree with that notion, but it certainly does have counters simply because it's on a class that has counters himself. if you're going to nerf anything, you might as well nerf the rank.
Well, from here, I think we've got a pretty stable and open conversation that we can go into, which is the new update items. More
Yes.
in relevance, the backscatter, and possibly the mad milk that they've produced for the bread box.
Yeah, it's a new skin of Mad Milk. It's basically a jar of bread, but yeah, I'll let you talk about it.
It's really cute. I actually sold my strange mad milk with allies extinguished and grabbed one of the new, what is it called? The mutated milk. I grabbed one of those because it's really cute. I love the little bread things. I find them adorable.
You see, Dekky, I'm not the only one who finds them cute.
Man,
Well, I
the
said
new
they were cute. I thought the bread sapper was cute.
Oh yeah,
bread sapper. Oh, it roars at you endlessly. If I didn't love Wheatley so much, I'd go grab it. But yeah, so anyway, so I have a lot to say about the mutated milk. As mentioned, the bad milk is one of my favorite weapons, and when I need more meat on my scout because he's getting shredded by sentries and stuff, for some reason I feel the need to play him, I'm equipping the mad milk. It gives him some much needed survivability. The mutated milk does all that too. Usually I can find weird ways to use unlocks. Like I'm trying to talk about how the mutated milk, if you throw it and hit someone with a direct hit, they'll have a little bread guy eating them. That's really cool. I wish I could find a way to make that more useful than just the regular milk, but I don't think it is. It's just cute. I don't know as much about the backscatter. I haven't actually managed to get one yet. I sold all of my refined immediately to get a tide turner and a base jumper, so I haven't tried the backscatter. It certainly doesn't look overpowered from the stats. I think they could probably upgrade it to critting when fired from the back, simply because with the clip size and the accuracy, you're going to be dealing reduced damage anyway, and when you've done anything to nerf the damage, slapping mini crits on there really doesn't do much to fix it. But I can't say for sure because I haven't really used them. But it certainly doesn't seem overpowered. Hitting people from the back with your scattergun is what you're already supposed to be doing as scout, and you're already going to two-shot anything you do. And the backscatter is not going to be any better at one-shotting. It deals a maximum. Looks like it says 105 damage on the wiki. I guess. I don't actually know the math. I don't know if mini crits on a 105 damage meat shot takes it up into one-shotting light classes, but the scattergun fires so quickly I can't see that mattering. So in general, I don't see the backscatter from looking at it as particularly useful, but I know that it's always a bad idea to make judgments like that before I've actually used the gun.
May I speak?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think what Nommy was sort of getting at is that it's a bit like a certain spy weapon.
I might have been.
Well, that's true. The backscatter is a lot like the knife, in that you're both kind of backstab. It's also a lot like the backburner, which crits from the back as well. And all of that makes sense. Pyros, spies, and scouts are all about flanking, getting behind the enemy. I mean, Pyro has a lot of other things he can do, but that was his original.
You see, there was a certain YouTuber who donned it as the backstabber instead of the backscatter to see what, and he actually tested it using bonk and the backscatter to get behind the enemy and see how efficient it was. And it turned out that it was a very efficient weapon. You could go straight round the back because nobody notices you if you're bonked, do they? They basically ignore you. You can get round the back, and you can just basically backstab the entire team.
Okay.
The scout is a spy.
Well, that makes sense. Oh. Yeah, Thomas?
Scout is spy. That's all I wanted to say. Please continue.
What I have to say regarding what this YouTuber found out, I have not personally seen this video, nor do I know who we're talking about, but I hesitate to agree that whatever he accomplished with the backscatter couldn't have just been done with the default scattergun.
Oh, obviously it could have been achieved with the same thing, but we can't tell if the backscatter improved it or anything. We just don't know.
Yeah, so I
That's
mean, I agree that if you use bonk to flank, which is, one of the things that bonk was made to do, and then you run up and shoot people from the back with your backscatter, that would work. I also think that it would work if you use the default scattergun. It shoots quickly enough that you can two-shot everything you might have one-shot with the backscatter, and you don't have the spy problem where someone turning around, the game just deciding that they're turned around, or any number of random things preventing you from getting those crits. You won't have to worry about that if you're not relying on the crits. So that's just what I think. I don't know if it's worth it to have to come up from behind. Just use the default scattergun or the babyface blast.
Basically, the idea of gender bending is that you take the 9 classes of Team Fortress 2 and you make female versions of them. And the reason I bring this up now is because the most prominent one is probably the female scout. She's come up in a lot of YouTube videos made with Source Filmmaker, and I spent a lot of time researching these videos, so yeah, I've seen female versions of I think every class except the heavy. So, Medic, what do you think of this sort of development?
I don't really like any of the gender bends. I mean, some of them are very good. The gender bend, the spy, medic, and engineer, they're all quite good. They're very close to the classes and have their own style. The gender bends for scout and pyro, they're just not particularly good. They're unimaginative. They're just like you put a skirt on them that you can see up half the time because they put jiggle bones in it, and they're just pointless. They really are. They haven't got any character or anything to them. And someone made a custom voice for made a voice pack for the female scout, and it's just really not very good.
Yeah, I think the voice pack for the female scout, I've downloaded it from the workshop. I think it's exactly the same as the one for the scout, they just changed the pitch of it and stuff like that.
Oh, probably. I don't like it. I've never liked the female scout. It's overly sexualized in some cases. Well, there is a female heavy. I have seen one. It wasn't
Yeah,
too
right.
bad actually, but it's hard trying to keep the proportions for that one.
Yeah, I'd say.
Chemical
I think
Alia
so.
made it. I actually interviewed Chemical Alia. I may be pronouncing her name wrong, but she makes a lot of models for Team Fortress 2 and especially for Dota 2. And a lot of the gender bend classes you see, I don't know if she made Fem Scout, but I know that she made Fem Spy, Fem Medic, Fem Heavy, and Fem Engineer, and all of which are pretty easy to find. If you're trying to look up female versions of characters, you usually find hers. I actually interviewed her on the Daily Spuff a while back, and I asked her, why do you think people enjoy playing as gender bent TF2 classes so much? And she talked about something I think is interesting in her designs, and that she followed Valve's game philosophies when designing them so that they would still have unique silhouettes and that they would still be true to the characters. And I think part of the reason that Medic doesn't like the 2 examples she cited is that they don't stay true to the character of Scout and Pyro. They're more of just adding eye candy onto the class so that you can play a girl. Whereas Chemical Alia's characters are really the female spy is an enigmatic espionage agent who just happens to be female. And that's, why people probably like the Chemical Alia models and why a lot of people probably like to play TF2 classes.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, and I believe I've used Chemical Alia's female spy model in this very picture which we were just showing.
Yeah, that is one model that does, in my opinion, the spy model does actually bring a lot of, like, it shows this, it shows the class. It actually looks like it could be a female spy. It's a very good model, and it's not eye candy. It's actually I don't know how to explain it. It just looks good.
Oh yeah,
can I just say, sorry, very quickly, while I was posing her for that picture, her, like, the female You know, for the standard Valve models, like they have the face posing procedures.
Yeah.
You can't do that with the female scout or the other ones, but you can do it with Alias models. It's
Wow.
great. Like, you can get some decent expressions with the spy's face, but for the scout, when it's like happy, in pain, and that's about it. So, yeah, really good for modeling as well. Just before the Love and War update, Valve released a blog post on their TF2 website. In this, they gave a preview of some of the new taunts that came with the update. There's a nice gif of an engineer opening his toolbox and a lawn chair coming out, and it's great. In that post, there are 4 sentences and a cryptic concept picture relating to a moon-based map. And the idea is that Valve are working on a special map with low gravity physics. It's basically set in some kind of lunar space station thing. So what do you all think of this? Is it going to happen? And if it does, how do you think it's going to work?
I hope they don't have low gravity on it. And low gravity just makes life really easy for snipers.
Yeah, I don't like low gravity. I've played low gravity. I actually harbor a bit of a fondness for CP Orange ×3 as a map. I played a lot, so occasionally I'll join an Orange and be dismayed to find that it's a low grav server. I'll try to play it, and I'll be reminded why I hate low grav. So I really hope that yeah. Sorry, Medic.
It'd be fine if it didn't have snipers.
Or it'd be fine if, in my opinion, the low grav was not perma-set. Perhaps it was a capture the flag map where the enemy fortress would go into low grav while you hold the intelligence, because the intel is like the key to their low grav or their gravity, artificial gravity, or something. Just so long as it's not low grav all the time, and if the low grav doesn't dominate the map,
You
because it
should
really
work.
messes with projectile classes.
I think you should work for Steam writing their storylines.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
It makes sense for a moon-based map.
Yeah, it does. But Girardi makes sense in medieval mode, and they cut it for balance, right?
They gave us the crossbow.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't sacrifice gameplay for thematics, which would, I mean, yeah, low grav better be in there. It'd be weird if it wasn't. It's just that as someone who plays a lot of Demo Man, it's really annoying to have all of your pipes sail over whatever you're aiming for. And
Well-
Scout hits that a bit too, with the Sandman and Admiral.
I am sure that if they did do low gravity, your projectiles wouldn't move in low gravity because it's being fired, and the force behind it would push it at the same speed, so it wouldn't move in low gravity. Your things would move at the same speed you fired them at, so I'm sure they would all work fine. It's just
Well,
a
that's
matter
true.
of
That's true if you're talking about, for example, the rocket launcher. But if you think of the grenade launcher, which has a very distinct arc, that arc is lessened, just like everything else.
oh yeah, true.
Um,
The arc is lessened.
And most projectiles that aren't a fully charged huntsman shot or a rocket launcher actually do have arc in them. Anything the scout can throw has
That
an
is
arc.
very true.
Syringe guns
Flare
have an
gun
arc.
shots.
I'm just trepidatious, if that's a word, about low grav. Otherwise, I really think it'll happen, and I always love new maps. New maps are great. I wish they'd add more of them. And I wish they'd make Swiftwater an official map.
Yeah. Okay.
May I cut in, please? Just for a moment.
Yeah.
The base jumper. That would be an interesting thing to use in low gravity, don't you think?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
That would be weird.
As a demo man player, I do know that it is going to be it would be very awkward using it in low gravity.
As someone who killed me using the base jumper as a demo man.
Yes. I am still
kind of
sorry,
your party.
Dekky. He's still mad at me.
I'm not sorry for burning you.
Oh, well then I'm not sorry.
Alright.
I want to go try that out on my favorite low grav CP Orange server using the base jumper in low grav.
I may have to join you on that, Aabicus.
I mean, I'm not even sure if it'd be worth it. You're already basically base jumpered all the time. And as Medic mentioned, the base jumper, even in regular play, is a free headshot for some enemy sniper.
You'd be surprised though, it can actually be quite difficult to hit them.
Occasionally.
Not in low gravity, I should
No,
think.
actually, you'd be surprised. With base jumper soldiers and demo men, it is surprisingly tricky to hit them because they can actually weave from side to side very quickly. It's all down to how the player how the player actually moves.
Perhaps you'd just be stationary with the base jumper. Just sort of just hang in midair completely.
Kind of like when you're on fire with the base jumper. Yeah, you just kind of sit there, have free reign to
Yeah.
spam stick.
I said, but that is a funny bug. I don't know if it's a bug or not. I hope it's intentional, really.
I don't
No,
know.
it
Yeah,
is
it's-
intentional. If you have
it-
open flame above a parachute or something, in theory it will heat up the air under it,
Make
which
it
makes
float.
it expand and, keeps it buoyant.
So
Oh, I never
technically,
thought of that.
they might have done the physics on this. You don't know.
No, they have. I've looked it up. It's definitely not a bug.
Oh, isn't it? Okay.
Well, that's good. I'm glad it's not going anywhere soon. It has a hilarious synergy with the cow mangler, where you set yourself
Yeah.
on fire.
Okay, I think we're running out of time, so
I think we're going to have to
Yeah.
call it quits here. We should be good.
that's alright.
My only thing I would like is if Abacus, could you please give a few newcomer tips to any people who may have done, like, any newcomers that come to play Team Fortress 2? What would you recommend they do for Scout?
Oh, for Scout. If you're going to play Team Fortress 2 for Scout, my first recommendation is to use all stock classes and use the stock Scout and learn what he can do with a scattergun, a pistol, and a bat. And when you do finally decide to use unlocks, save the melee section for last. And that kind of goes for all classes. Almost always the first thing to go is the melee weapon when you pick something cool that does something cool. When you're like, well, okay, there's this bat that doesn't do anything, especially when your scattergun deals so much damage at immediate range. Or I could just have this thing that gives me a triple jump, or I could have this thing that launches a baseball, and that's all cool, but it distracts from the actual purpose of Scout. And the other thing is make sure to have teammates on hand when you meet sentries, because that's not going to be fun for you. And yeah, in general, that's my recommendation. Scout's a tough class. You just got to play him a lot. Oh yeah, fix your interp. That's the other thing. If you use default settings on Scout, you're gonna miss a lot of meat shots and not know why. I'm not great with this, but look up how to do it. There are some settings you'll need to fix before you want to be a dedicated hit scan class like Scout.
There you have it.
Yep, that was PhlogistiCast episode 2. I'm Dekky, my co-host is Nommy.
I'd
And
like to say
we-
thank you to Abacus and Medic for joining us.
Yes,
Thanks for
a
having
very
me on.
special guest.
Thank you.
Alright then.
Alright, from all of us, goodbye and good night.